Mr. Tommy Sheppard.
Thank you, Sir David. We are talking here about the Government of Scotland, so I hope it's not a contentious point to say that what should be uppermost in all our minds is the views of the people who live there. I'm very much in favour of what they call evidence-based policy, in that you try and make things right according to the facts of the situation, and I think we are in a fortunate position in this debate that we don't have to guess what the views of the people of Scotland are, because they have been consulted quite extensively over the course of the last year. We're having this debate today because of the event that took place on the 18th of September last year, when the people of Scotland had a referendum on whether or not they wanted to be an independent country. They decided by a majority of 55% to 45% that they did not want to be an independent country and leave the United Kingdom, and I respect, and my colleagues respect, that result and that opinion. But no one can deny that one of the things that swung that vote in favour of the No campaign was the intervention by the leaders of all three unionist parties to promise substantial new powers for Scotland should they decide to stay within the United Kingdom. The vow that was published and signed in the Daily Record and promoted the length and breadth of the country was definitely a major factor on which the outcome of that referendum result depended. Now, the response to that was to set up the Smith Commission, and Lord Smith has reported and given his view. We took part in that commission and we signed up to it, but we made it very, very clear that the Smith Commission is a floor, not a ceiling, on the ambition of Scotland for additional powers. We made that clear from the word go. And in fact, we've argued for that in the recent months in the run-up to the general election. Now, there has been a debate about whether or not the Smith Commission was an adequate response to the wishes of the people of Scotland expressed in the referendum. A raging debate that took place during the election campaign. We said that it was not. We said it was a start, but we should go further in order to satisfy the aspirations that were given to us in terms of the Prime Minister and Gordon Brown and other people saying we were going to get substantial new powers. It would be home rule. It would be as near to federalism as possible. That is what the people of Scotland were promised. And I'm afraid the Smith Commission doesn't quite add up to that. Now, we took that argument and we put it before the Scottish people in a general election. And we asked them to give us their view on whether or not they agreed with our analysis that actually we should go beyond the current Smith Commission. Yes. And you know what? They voted for us. They didn't just vote for us a little bit, they voted for us a lot. Over 50% of the people who turned out in that election voted for members of the Scottish National Party. And I would ask some honourable members to try and get the name right in this meeting. So the question now is, does the bill before us respond to what happened at the general election? And I have to say, and the Secretary of State can correct me if I'm wrong, I have to say the bill looks to me, because it's so similar to the clauses that were published in January, it looks to me as if it was drafted before the general election probably took place. And in fact, the rush and the speed with which it was published makes me think that actually not a lot of reflection has gone on about what happened at the election, what the views of the Scottish people are, and not a lot of inclusion has happened in that bill to make a response to that. So I would ask the Secretary of State and the Government to reflect as we go forward in these weeks about making changes to that bill so that it does reflect the views of the people of Scotland, and so that it, first of all, delivers the promises of the Smith Commission, and secondly, where possible, goes beyond them to do things on which Smith is silent, for example, but where the third sector and specialist organisations in Scotland are asking for administrative changes, which you could easily give, and then also to consider our arguments about going beyond Smith and granting substantial new powers, which would be more tantamount to the vow that was made. And one of the things the Secretary of State could do quite easily, and the Government could do, is to simply say, we will accept the amendments that are being made about the permanence of the Scottish Parliament. Albeit within our flawed and unwritten constitution that we have in the United Kingdom, we could make a statement that says, this Chamber agrees, the Scottish Parliament will never ever be taken away without a referendum of the people who live in Scotland. It would cost you nothing. It would cost the Government nothing to accede to that amendment, to agree to it. So why don't you do it, just as to demonstrate some respect towards the people that have sent us to this Chamber to argue these points? Nothing to lose, I'd say. Can I now turn to the question of full financial autonomy? And I have to say, last week I was in a strange position where I found myself misquoted on this by the Prime Minister, the Secretary of State, the opposition front bench, and indeed the leader, just to complete the pack, the leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats in the Scottish Parliament. I didn't know whether to feel victimised or to feel honoured, to be honest, but I'm delighted in recent press articles I've written and here today to put the record straight. I absolutely am committed to the idea that the Scottish Government should be responsible for raising the revenues which it spends. It seems to me that ought to be a non-contentious point, to be honest, in any structures throughout the world where they have a federal relationship and a federal type government, or they have even devolved assemblies. These arrangements are commonplace, and I really don't know. In fact, I've yet to hear what the argument is against them. Yeah.
I thank the honourable member for giving way, honourable friend, for giving way. He's both a canny Ulsterman and indeed a County Antrim man. And of course he would know that at his heart and at the heart of County Antrim, before a person is told that they want to spend money on something, they should know what the price actually is. Does the honourable member agree with me that it's important that before we vote on the amendment tonight, which his colleague has put forward, that we know the price, in particular for corporation tax, what it will mean for the ordinary Scot?
I would say, I'm a dairyman as it happens, but and perhaps if the honourable gentleman wants to make a point of such substance, he might indicate to the chair and take part in the debate. But I would say that what we're talking about tonight and what we're discussing right now is a matter of political principle. It's about the direction that we want to go forward. It's entirely possible to put in place, if there's the goodwill to do it, arrangements that will work through the fiscal arrangements. But I just want to come back to the honourable member for Gainsborough, who's put forward his amendment tonight. I've not been in this job long, and I am. Can I just deal with this point, and then we'll take it? I have not been in this job long, and I'm still. I expect I'll be surprised for the next 5 years at various things, but I am quite surprised and genuinely surprised to find such a passionate and eloquent exposition from the Conservative backbenchers of a position with which I agree. I suspect that there would be little else that the honourable gentleman and I might well agree on, but on this point he makes his case very well. I do wonder if he's doing this, though, with an element of mischief at the back of his mind. I wonder if perhaps he believed the propaganda of his own front bench several weeks ago, which suggested that, in fact, we were somehow weakening in our commitment to full financial economy, and he thought perhaps that he might embarrass us in this debate in some way. Well, I have to assure him we are not in any way lukewarm about this. Our commitment is not weakened. In fact, we like it so much, we've made our own amendment and brought it to this House to vote on. But I am intrigued at the suggestion that all we need to do is vote for it, and this can be... That's how you vote.
Will you vote for it?
I'm completely sincere. I believe that the case for full fiscal autonomy is unanswerable in logic.
And I'm pleased to hear it, and I therefore expect that he will vote for our amendment later on tonight. Well, the honourable gentleman says vote for his amendment. Why don't we do a deal then? I'll try and make sure that all my colleagues vote for your amendment. If you make sure all of your party vote for it as well. And then maybe we can have it by 10 o'clock this evening. Maybe that would be possible. I think the strange thing about this debate so far is that... Well, OK.
His honourable friend made an absolute commitment that he would vote for my new clause. Yes. I will be putting it at 10 o'clock. I expect to see him there.
No problem. If it's put, you'll see me there for sure. Absolutely. I'm hoping I shall see you in the lobby when it comes to voting on our amendment as well. But I wanted to reflect that the interesting thing, it seems to me, about this debate so far is that we've not actually had the case put against full financial. Absolutely. Is this on the point of your misrepresentation of my views, perhaps, or? OK, let me
apologise for the little to the member for Edinburgh East, and he's just confirmed as well that he will walk down the lobby with the honourable member for Gainsborough for something that the honourable gentleman called on the radio that I was on with him utterly devastating. I think he said the delivery of full fiscal autonomy for Scotland. Does he stand by those comments? didn't apologise.
I think you really ought to apologise for misquoting me. I said, yes, I have the transcript too. I said in the context of a debate that it would be possible, if it was done wrongly, to get it wrong. That, to my mind, is a tautology. It says if you don't do something right, you get it wrong. The honourable member for Edinburgh South then decided and took to the Twitter sphere to promote the fact that this somehow meant that I was against the whole principle of full financial autonomy. It doesn't. I am not. And I think the fact that you had to do that indicates the paucity of the arguments against what we are putting. But I wanted to say that the thing I reflect on most is that we have yet to hear the argument against full financial autonomy for the Scottish Government. Yet to hear it. And I hope that before the debate concludes that we shall hear it. We've had talk of a black hole, which other people will regard as a deficit, and in fact is something that pertains to all economies at this current point in time. We've had talk of that a policy of principle should be based on a snapshot at one point in time of an academic survey of what may happen in a year which is not even going to be covered by the process. And somehow that has been extrapolated into being an argument of principle against it. It is not. And if it were, does that mean that if there wasn't a deficit, and in fact there was a surplus in the Scottish budget, as there has been on many occasions, would the policy be flipped again? Would it suddenly become okay? I think we need to hear the arguments of principle against this.
Are we going to hear it?
The difference probably between us is this. That yes, there is a deficit at the current time in the Scottish budget,
as there is in the UK.
But we on this side of the House believe it is possible for Scotland to prosper if it has control of its own resources, if it's able to manage its own economy, if it's able to grow its own revenue base, if it's able to steward its own budgets properly. We believe that Scotland can prosper, and that full financial autonomy would mean that the people of Scotland can get the benefits of that economic growth in Scotland. And that seems to me to be a laudable objective. I'm sorry, I'm just coming to the end. My honourable friend, the member for Dundee East, has given some clear examples of how economic powers could be deployed. And if the members, I think it's mainly in the Labour benches, but perhaps in the government benches, are against this, and if they are against it in principle, they need to tell us. But if they're against it just because of the economics that might pertain, then it's entirely possible to make an argument about equalisation measures and other mechanisms that could be brought in if you wanted this to happen. What you need to tell us is why, on principle, you don't want it to happen. And I hope that we'll hear that before the night is out. But in the meantime, I would commend the House to support these amendments.